Hello, it's Steve Westman, live Audiophile Roundtable. Steve Hoffman's top vinyl picks in the future of audiophile remastering and the master tape. Welcome to the program, everyone. I'm Steve Westman. Excited about talking to Mr. Steve Hoffman today. We have lots to talk about, of course, lots of topics. Some of them you guys know about already. So let's maybe bring him in first of all. How are you doing, my friend? You're on your phone texting. You should have been paying attention.
No, I wasn't texting. I was just checking stuff out.
Hey,
Steve-O, good to see you.
How are you?
I'm good. How are things?
Good. Vancouver's a little bit colder, thank you. But I mean, I know we were texting back and forth during the fires, and you got no evacuation notices, but close around your area, I assume, right? You
real
were saying?
close, real close.
Yeah.
But the wind started blowing in the other direction, and we were saved.
Yeah. So if it would have been the other way, no more Hoffman House?
No,
Maybe?
I don't know. I don't know. It's hard to say. It's hard to say. It was a little too close.
Yeah.
For comfort, and I was sweating a little bit there, but that's over now, and so.
Well, we know lots from the community, and the community lost their houses, so sad times for sure. I mean, as long as everyone's safe, right? I mean, I guess stuff can be replaced, as crappy as that is to lose stuff in your house, but as long as your family's safe, like you and I have spoken about before.
LA's a mess, you know. What are you going to do? So how are you?
I'm doing really well. Excited to talk to you today because I don't know if you checked out our show last week. We were talking, and we'll get into this. I know I've had a lot of people asking, but we did a show called News, Picks, and Thoughts on the One-Step Process. I'm not sure if you heard about this one-step process debate or not, Steve.
Well, yeah, I've heard about it. It's on my website forum all the time, and
it's one of the top 700-800 posts on this already. So I think today I'm going to preface it a bit by saying I really want to address that with you. Don't get them too excited on your thoughts on that, but I definitely want to talk about that as well. First, I want to do this though first. So highfidelityrecords.com, they buy and sell records. I'm sure you've seen this website before. They sponsored a top 5 Steve Hoffman picks today. So I want to go through those picks with you and talk about this. This is brought to you by highfidelityrecords.com, buying and selling collections. So Steve, if you ever needing to sell your collection, give them a shout, man.
Really?
Yeah.
Interesting.
There you go. highfidelityrecords.com.
Okay.
Well, be good. So
that's good info.
Thank you so much, High Fidelity Records. So top 5. So number 5, and then I want to talk about it too. And these records are available on the highfidelityrecords.com website as well. So this is sort of a Steve Hoffman Day, Steve Hoffman week. So we want to coincide with that. I know, isn't that cool? So number 5 on the list. Do you remember this one? John Coltrane, Blue Train.
Yeah, I remember it.
Analog Productions. That's 45 RPM, 2 LP. Steve Hoffman, Kevin Gray acoustic. It was 2000 and I think that was 13, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I remember it well. So
tell us a little about Blue Train. What came out in January 1958, Rudy Van Gelder studio. Now, looking back, that's a super jazz band with the lineup of Coltrane, Morgan, Fuller, Drew, Chambers, and Philly Joe Jones. That. Probably in the time, it was like, oh, no big deal. These guys get together and just play some tunes. But thinking about that at the Van Gelder studio back in 1957, that's mind blowing. Yeah, it wasn't a great seller in its day. It's just rose in stature over the years, right. To where now everybody has at least 8 or 9 copies of it, and I like to think that that's the best one. I remember we used the Mr. Kevin Gray's Van Gelderizer on there. What's that mean?
It's a little device that allows one to cut a proper phonograph record from a Van Gelder tape, because there's like a high-pitched noise on all of them, and that high-pitched noise just screws up the cutter head like you wouldn't believe.
Stop you right there. When you say high-pitched noise, and now would that have come from the studio at Van Gelder's, or what was that high-pitched noise from?
Yes, it was right in his setup. somehow.
So is that always in his setup with a lot of
Not
those old?
always,
Okay.
but usually it's there. Obviously he didn't hear it and his equipment didn't hear it, but a modern cutter head can hear it, and
Okay.
it wreaks havoc on it. So we Van Gelderized that away, and then it's really a beautiful record.
No, it really is. And I mean, I know at the time it was one. I don't know if it went down as being Coltrane's favorite record, a record of his. I
I
believe
doubt
it probably was, right?
it. I don't know. I don't
But I mean,
know.
it's sold. I think it's sold. Geez, I'd have to look. I'd have to Google it, but it's probably sold at least
I
half a
don't.
million to a million
I,
copies at this
I'm
point. Yeah.
pretty sure that that's not true, Stephen. I don't think any of those were high sellers.
No,
Never.
like over the whole length of it since like 57, not even a half a million now. Wow.
No, no,
Wow.
I don't think so. I don't think so. It's just, you know, we're all very passionate about it all,
Yeah.
but when you go into the general community, it's a whole different thing, right? So,
Well,
but
I mean, jazz is
my
selling more.
opinion.
Jazz records are selling more than they ever have, right? I mean, right now,
Yes,
currently.
that,
So I mean,
that
it's a
doesn't mean
big
much.
market. Yeah.
Yeah, but
True.
we're being swayed by our own enthusiasms, and it's not always accurate as to what's out there. However, it's a great album, and I love John Coltrane. And
Is that your favorite Coltrane album?
No,
Ah,
no.
tell the folks which one.
The ones on Impulse.
Okay.
I like a lot of those. I like Coltrane. He was. He died way too young. So
Yeah.
what can I tell
Those
you?
guys partied hard, worked hard, partied hard. A
I
lot
don't
of
know
those
if he
dudes,
partied
huh?
hard. I think I can't
Like,
remember what happened to him, but something happened to him.
like,
Maybe a heart attack, didn't he? Or was that West Montgomery? I get them mixed up now. One of them had a heart attack, and the other one causes unknown, right?
yeah. But I mean, what is it brought on by? Was it brought on
I
by?
don't know.
I think Coltrane was hepatitis, and with because of drugs and stuff like that, injecting needles.
Really?
Yeah,
Really?
I believe so.
Johnny, how could you do that to yourself?
Well, that's the thing. You party hard, live harder, right? They partied hard. These guys. It's funny. You wouldn't think these jazz guys would be that into that. I mean, look at Art Pepper's life. I read the autobiography of Art Pepper. Wow,
The Straight Life.
that's
Yeah.
a life.
I love art.
Art's great.
Okay, what's next?
Okay, number 4, highfidelityrecords.com's picks of the week for the Steve Hoffman week or Steve Hoffman day. You ready for this one?
Sure.
Hang on, I gotta find it here. Find it.
Do.
Here it is. Here it is. Number 4, CCR, Willie and the Poor Boys. Another Analog Productions, 33 RPM. Now, this was on 200-gram vinyl when you guys cut it.
Are you sure?
I believe so, yeah. That's what it says on Discogs. Discogs would never lie. Come on.
No, they're wrong. It's 180.
It wasn't 200?
No.
So, Willie and the Poor Boys.
You know why?
Tell me why.
180 was just about as much as you could do at RTI, to make a really good record. 200 pushing it. It's
okay.
Too much.
So even if it says 200, it was one less than 200.
I'm pretty sure that Chad understands that unless you're really, really careful, you can just go overboard with it all. But anyway, yeah 180, 190 gram.
So Willie Hyder Studios, San Francisco, 69. That was recorded. Now, some of my favorite songs, Down on the Corner, of course, but Fortunate Son is by far my most favorite song of CCR. I mean, that's what would it be, a Vietnam protest war during the late 60s? I mean, that you hear those in movies and those war Vietnam movies to this day. I mean, that song represents Vietnam to me. As a moviegoer, I mean, you lived it. I wasn't even around that time, but that
I didn't live it.
That's Vietnam, man. Fortunate Son.
Not that old, Jesus.
I ain't no senator's son, or however the lyric is.
Remind me, the engineer of that album and all the Hyders is Russell Gary, and you should have him on.
Well, I need a contact. I'd love to have them on.
He would love that. He would love that. Yeah, he's our friend. He knows Kevin Gray. He knows me.
Okay.
He has some interesting stories. You like that album, or
I love this. I love CCR.
Green River, or Cosmos Factory. He recorded them.
Think about this, right? You get Willie and the Poor Boys. Going back, like Willie and the Poor Boys. So 1969, they released Green River, right? Beginning of 69. Mid 69, they did Willie and the Poor, or sorry, I think no, sorry, it was wasn't it? Yeah, Bayou Country was the beginning of '69, and then
No, no,
Green
no.
River,
68,
mid, and then
68, 68.
late would be Willie and the Poor Boys. So 3 albums in 1969. That's unbelievable.
Yeah,
How do
and
you can't
then
do that today?
one other good one, and then that was it, pretty much. So
Well, Cosmo Factory came out after
yeah, Cosmo
this one, right?
Factory, and
Some
then
great back-to-back records though.
yeah, I had them all. I love
What's your
those
favorite
records.
one?
Oh, I'm a song sort of guy, not an
Sure.
album sort of guy.
Yeah.
So, I love the song Green River, and if I had to choose one album, I guess it would be Willie. And then,
I was guessing Cosmos Factory actually.
eh,
Because you
it's up
guys cut
there.
that,
It's
you and
up there.
Kevin remastered that one years back, and that's a great sounding record. That's still available. It was, I know, not too long ago on
Oh,
Amazon. Your copy,
cool. That was a great sounding record.
great sounding record. And the tapes must. I mean, you remember the tapes? They're in good shape back then.
Sure.
Clearly, yeah.
Oh yeah. Yeah, they weren't used that much.
All right.
Was
So
that back? Okay. Hit it.
number three, number three.
Yes.
Exactly. Yes. Fragile.
Dun, dun, dun,
Or have
dun,
you
dun,
ever seen the movie A Christmas Story? Fragile. So Fragile by Yes.
Fragile. Oh, yeah.
Fragile.
Fragile. I remember the night that we cut that record
Okay.
at Record Tech. We had an open house that night, and we had about 25 visitors who came in there, who crowded around, and we showed them that Avildsen master tapes, and Mr. Kevin Gray showed how he made how he used the setup tones to get the Dolby A just right, and then we played Roundabout, and everybody clapped. It was cool. And we cut that record twice. Once pretty much straight, and then another time with some extra high end. And it was up to Chad to choose, and he chose the one that was straight. So if you want to know what the actual master sounds like of Fragile, that is it. I mean, that is the most accurate representation of that album that you will ever hear anywhere.
It's you probably don't. If you did know, the Atlantic 75 series just re-released that Chad just did at 45 RPM. So, and I believe Kevin cut that one as well.
It's not a really dynamic record. As a matter of fact, the VU meters didn't hardly move. They just sort of like that. So we couldn't do much with that, but it was fun. It was a childhood record. So,
is that what your favorite Yes record?
Nope. Seen all good people. You know that one.
Wait,
You know the one I mean?
I don't know. I know the song. Which it was. Was it just it wasn't Close to the Edge? It would have been the Yes
No,
album.
it's the earlier one, the one with a green cover.
Yes, it would be the Yes album then, 1971ish probably.
Yeah, it could be. Yeah, it's just sentimental for me. What's next?
All right, number 2 on the list from highfidelityrecords.com, ZZ Top. You probably remember it. 2006, you cut this one. Let me put the little thing up here. ZZ Top. There it is. Do you remember doing this one, Tres Hombres? ZZ Top, 2006. Now, it says 180-gram vinyl, cut from the original analog tapes for audiophile quality, pressed at RTI, Kevin Gray, Steve Hoffman, acoustic.
Yep. That's, if you like ZZ Top, that's their album. We also, cut the one after that, the one that had, I'm in downtown looking for some tush, whatever album that was called. We also cut that one and the earlier one. So we cut all three of them.
You did Rio Grande
yes.
Mud as well? Okay.
Yes. All three of them.
Oh, wow.
Did it. It was a lot of fun. I can remember walking into a audiophile stereo store that is no longer there now, east of Pasadena, Brooks Verdun, and I'm walking in the front door and I heard LaGrange going in one of the rooms, and when it came in, when the it came in, I went, that has to be ours. And I opened the door. Yep, it was ours. Really dynamic, really out there. Yeah. We didn't add any fake treble. We didn't add any fake mid-range. We mastered it just the way they heard it in the studio. Proud of that one, boys.
Now, a lot of the time, you get the reissues coming out. Pretty much. Do you ever listen to those ones? Like, I guess, would you want to listen to the analog productions 45 RPM cut of it just to compare it? Would you do that?
If you
No
want
interest?
If you want to send it to me, I'd be happy to.
I don't have it.
You know, I'm you know, I don't like to compare only because you know, it's pointless for me personally. You know, I had my shot at it and
Yeah.
still happy with it. You know, if someone wants to muck around with it, great. You know, I mean, we get into that whole, well, what's better, 33 or 45 thing, you know, and I'm all, I don't care really. You know, for me, we did a test once where we cut onto lacquer something at the regular 33 and a third RPM, and we played it back and we compared it with a master tape, and it sounded just like the master tape, except with a little added whatever records add. It's like a immediacy. And then we cut it at 45 and played it back, and we turned down the volume of our playback unit, and it sounded exactly the same to us. So,
like,
you
no
know,
differences. Didn't sound any more detailed.
No, why would you want that? You know, look, the mastering is what it is. If it's more detailed, then it's not accurate enough, and I would be unhappy with that. The only thing that it might have an advantage on is if you have a crap arm and the inner grooves are tricky to play, it might help at a higher speed. And you have a higher volume, so you lose some of the surface noise of the vinyl and stuff like that there. Anyway.
Good album, though. Okay, so
great album.
Number 1. Do you want to do a drum roll? Can you drum roll it? Da, 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 da. On the highfidelityrecords.com Steve Hoffman week on their website, they're selling these, so you can buy them on their website. There's the number 1 pick. He did this one in 2009. So put your rain back there.
Come on,
the master tape. I'm putting it up right there. There it is. Van Halen, 2009. RTI repress. And then we'll let folks know this is a 2000 RTI repress, but that's from the DCC plates. Yeah. So this is a DCC cut that you guys did back in your DCC days. But repressed in 2009 using that metal.
That was an album that Mr. Kevin Gray worked on almost more than I did. You know, I wanted it to sound a certain way. And, you know, the master tape literally has no bass. It's
oh, wow.
There's nothing on there. And so my job was to get it to sound human and immediate and lifelike with some low end. And Mr. Kevin Gray's job was to get that on a phonograph record without breaking a groove. So I think that worked out.
So can you enlighten us as how that can happen then? What do you have to do to get bass on a record if there's no bass on the master tape?
You want to tell you my secrets?
It's called secret sauce.
We muck around with it.
Muck around.
And, you know, it's basically equalization and what you're playing it back on. You know, there's all different tape machines. They all have their own sound, the Ampex sound, the Studer sound. And, you know, you get a more sympathetic machine and you use an analog EQ, like an old fashioned Sontec, and you fill in what's not there. So
I like that. What was that one song on that? Jamie's Crying. I like that song.
Jamie's Crying.
And then they had the Kinks, right? You really got a hold of me. That got a lot of record play. I mean, in Canada, anyways, on those 2 songs. I heard those a lot on the radio. Played a lot.
Yeah, that was a good album. I mean, you know, I enjoyed working on that. I mean, it's a little after my teenage angst years, but, you know, my wife loved that album. You know, she knew it by heart. So that was fun working on that one.
Well, my favorite Van Halen album of all time is 1984.
Ding, ding. Well, yeah, you're an
I mean,
MTV guy, aren't
I
you?
am, because that's exactly right. I mean, that is
MTV
exactly what's
dude.
happened. I mean, NTV,
Yep.
that was big. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So that was our top
Okay.
five from highfidelityrecords.com. I'll put their website
Thank
up.
you,
This is
guys.
There you go, guys.
Thank
Thank you. So get them on
you
their
so
website,
much.
Steve Hoffman Week on their website, highfidelityrecords.com. Thank you. That was fun.
Might I remind you, there are at least another 1,000 in my discography that you might consider.
Well,
There's some good ones out there.
I'm sure there's lots anyways. Okay. So thank you for doing that. That was fun. Now, last week on the Audiophile Roundtable, I know you don't miss one episode.
Sorry, I didn't see it. Go on.
You're supposed to work with me and say, yeah, Steve, I
Yeah.
don't miss any episodes.
Yeah.
I gave you that. Come on. We did this. So picks and thoughts on the one-step process. Is it worth the money? And so on the Hoffman forum, when you posted this video saying, hey, guys, come and watch it. Let's get our popcorn out. I want to, I hopefully he talks about the one-step process, because right now it's the most popular post on the Hoffman forum. I mean, there's 800 comments on that about Kevin Gray's comment about his thoughts on
What did
the
he say?
one-step being a scam.
Yeah.
So I want to ask you, and I know everyone, all the folks here, the viewers, are at the edge of their seats now. Guys, I'll give you 2 minutes to grab your popcorn. 2 seconds. 3, 2, 1. Popcorn. And I want to hear about your thoughts on if you think that the one step is worth the money.
No. I mean, look, if you're a record collector and you want to collect something groovy, sure, it's cool. You got a record, you get the box, you get this whole thing. But the one step is essentially the cheapo way to make a record. You know, I have a one step in my record collection, the Taft High School Marching Band at the Rose Parade, 1975. So 280 copies. That's my one step. When you make a record, you need to go all the way. In the old days, before it became trendy, that was the vanity press, was the one step. It was cheaper. That's all. It was just cheaper to make. To make a proper record, first you need to cut the lacquer, then you need to twirl it around with the silver, then you need to build up your first layer and peel it off. That's not the stamper. That is the master. Some call it the father, but the proper term is the master. Has mountains and not grooves. That's your master. Now you can look at that. The engineer can look at that and get it clean and make sure it's all looking right. And then the exciting part happens. From that, you build up another section and peel that off. That is your mother. And your mother now has grooves again. You can play it. You can hear it. What's it sound like? You can correct little anomalies with your little tools. And then from that, you carefully press up your next layer with mountains again. That's what you can make your record from. You can squash those onto side one and side two and carefully center them so you don't have off-center records. I hate that. And then you can press in the audiophile 180 gram thing. You can press maybe 900 to 1,000, and then you have to make another set of stampers. The point being, if you're locked into your mastering and you want it to sound the same, that's the way they've been making records since 1902. The same exact process. All that's changed is it's no longer live music being cut on the wax. It is now from a tape. And it's you can make another mother from the master, and you can send that off to England so they can have the same record that you have, and they can make a whole bunch of stampers from their mother. And when you have a one step, you can't really do any of that. You're limiting yourself. And do you think it's quieter? No, it's really not. It's just it's the cheapo way to do it. It's like, I mean, if you want to make it a collector's item and, that's okay. There are some collectors out there who want unique items. When I first began working with a vinyl, what we wanted to do out at RTI was offer the records not on vinyl, but on metal. We wanted to make metal parts as the record. It was possible to do, but it was going to cost like $500 a metal plate. And at that time, it was ridiculous. Now it would be okay. But one steps are, I have one step in my collection that I love, that I happen to have right here, that is, let me just show this to you. Can you see that?
Push it back a bit.
Yeah. Let Us Go Into the House of the Lord by the Southern California State Youth Choir, Church of God in Christ. Now,
Who needs to go to church? You just open that up and play it every Sunday morning.
Saying, what is this? Why is this good? This is Oh Happy Day by the Edwin Hawkins Singers. Started life. Okay. Scream me down with,
yes,
hey,
sir. There you go.
Started life as a one-step, pressed in San Francisco. That's what the back looks like, and it's
hold on, I gotta put it up again.
No, it's all right. God, these ring lights are, that's what it looks like. Wait,
so Northern put it up. I read something. Northern California. What's the
God, I'm so uncoordinated. Yeah,
I know it's tough. Okay.
This is a one step. They made it for their congregation. Okay, back me off there, will you? They made it for their congregation, and it was so good that they started playing on the radio there. And then, of course, they sold the master to Atlantic, which put it out on Pavilion, and it became a big smash hit. They renamed them the Edwin Hawkins Singers, but the original was a one-step. And of course, it sounds great.
Yeah.
But, I mean, it was vanity press.
So part of the debate, right, with the one step is like the plating. The silver remains on the first step, and you've got to, it's the silver you've got to take off, is what Kevin was mentioning as well, which can obviously make it more of a distortion than the regular way. But I was also thinking too, especially with the new one step, the compound being used through RTI or the Neotech compound, that does make it a lot more quieter too. So that definitely comes into play when they're pressing these one steps with this new vinyl compound. Would that not be a
look? You'd have to pick a song that you like.
Yeah.
Tangled Up in Blue by Bob Dylan.
Ah.
Cut a lacquer of that one song, and then cut another lacquer of that same song. Process one as a one step. Process the other one as a regular step, and compare the two. Are they going to sound the same? Is one going to be quieter than the other? I don't know. It's all in the mastering. I mean, if you have a good tape and it's going to sound good, it's going to sound good. One steps are a pain in the butt, and now you have to keep recutting.
Well, that was my next question. I mean, we're going to talk about today the future of the master tape, and this is one thing. You can't be running the tape if you're going to run 10,000. If you want to have 10,000 copies of a one step, I mean, you got to run it. If it's 500, it's only going to be 500, I guess, copies per plate, right? And then you got to remaster it. That's a lot of running. That's a lot of time to run this tape.
You're not going to use the master to do all that. You're going to make a copy or use something that's
how MoFi we ran into the DSD gate, right? Because when Michael Jackson's Thriller was announced, 30,000 copies, the light bulb went on. Hang on, how many times you have to run that tape for a one step? Something's not adding up.
Well, if you just cut one set of lacquers and had it processed correctly, you wouldn't have to do any of that crap. I mean, I'm really old school. It's a gimmick, and it irritates me. Not because it's in lower quality or anything. I have no way of confirming that. You have to, talk with Mr. Gray about that. We never ever had that conversation. Not once did it ever come up. And I've known Kevin since 1982, and we've never once talked about one steps, because nobody does a one step. Nobody does a one step unless you're, the Taft High School marching band and you want 500 copies, or the Northern California State Youth Choir, Church of God in Christ. I wonder why they
played at the Hoffman family church.
Changed the name. That's a joke, son. The Edwin Hawkins Singers has a better ring to it. When I bought my single of "Oh Happy Day," the first thing I did was on this ugly white label. It said Pavilion on it, and I played it on my fold-out Zenith, and I was so happy to hear it. It was in true stereo. It was like, I was so impressed. It was like, what, 1968? As a kid, I was happy with my 85 cents purchase. Anyway, go on. I know I'm not answering your.
So I'm hearing that pretty much you're in agreement. More of the one step's more of just a.
Well, I wouldn't call it a scam. I would call it a collector's thing. I would call it
a gimmick is pretty much.
Yes, a gimmick.
All right.
Is it a scam or is it a gimmick? I would call it a gimmick. If it sounds good, it's not a scam. But what would it sound like on a regular record? Would it sound just as good? Yeah, but it wouldn't be as fun, or it wouldn't be as rare. I don't know what you guys are into, but I could tell you that it makes me a little nervous. If I was doing the mastering and I nailed it onto a lacquer, I would want to preserve that lacquer. I wouldn't want to just,
we'll throw it out,
obsolete it immediately, because that goes against everything I was ever taught about how to do it right. So there you go.
All right, so that's a gimmick. So here's another Hoffman forum throw around these days. Half-speed mastering. Now, is that a gimmick?
Oh my God. Is it a gimmick?
Well, no. That's a word that's been used. I mean, we know Stan Ricker was the one that really really got that going in the 70s, right?
I don't like half-speed mastering, and I know Mr. Gray doesn't like half-speed.
Well, we know that. So your thoughts?
Well, it's just it doesn't come out right. It doesn't sound right in my ears, and it's very hard to cut into metal. Very hard, and it's you have to be very careful with the low end, and you have to do all these things. And what's the advantage? The advantage is only that you don't have to use a lacquer, and you don't have to plate a lacquer. Okay, so you're making the mother. And well, why? I mean, I don't like it. So, and who uses that?
Abbey Road Studios. Abbey Road. All the Beatles remixes are all half-speed.
I bet they wish they never got into that. I bet they wish they could just, play back their master tape at the right speed for once.
Did you get a chance to listen to the
probably not
the 65 Beatles that came out November?
They haven't sent me my box yet. I'm waiting. So no, I haven't.
Kevin Reeves cut these ones. We like to say they were cut hot. Sound amazing.
Yeah,
I like them.
Do you know how many generations away from the master that is? At least 3.
Okay.
But that doesn't matter. I mean, if it sounds good, it sounds good. Sometimes it helps. If you make a copy of something that doesn't sound that hot to begin with, it might smooth that out a little bit.
No one had hi-fi equipment back then either, right? Nothing was jumping around.
The tape that they sent over to Capitol, I remember when I was over there with oh my God, I can't think of his name now. The mastering engineer. Jeez, what the heck's his name? Oh my Lord, I'm getting
for the Beatles. Let me help you out here. Who are you with? Not Kevin Gray.
No. I was at Capitol. We were working on the box for Jay and the Americans and Gary Lewis and the Playboys. Anyway, the engineer whose name I can't. Oh, Robert Vosjan. Thank you, Robert Vosjan. He had the Meet the Beatles, and the original tapes from England were copied at like +12. So when you thread it up, the meter is just pinned completely,
Wow.
just completely overloaded with, it was their way of adding extra compression. It was their way of worrying about hiss. But it was like we had to recalibrate all the machines so we could lower the volume enough to be able to hear one song. And, it was okay. I mean,
Yeah.
now
So
that's gimmick.
I'm going back to something again because I want to just to reiterate here. So half-speed mastering. I know you talked about DMM. So half-speed mastering is what they do. They don't do DMM cuts at Abbey Road. So when they do the Beatles, it's just half-speed mastered. It's not a DMM cut.
It's not?
No,
You're kidding.
I'm not kidding.
What the hell's the point of that? I
So
guess
what I'm trying to ask you is that, I mean, with half-speed mastering, you really get more bass out of it, right? I mean, you get the real low
no,
end on that a lot of the time, don't you? Is that what they're?
no, because you have a low bass note that's 40 cycles normally. Now you're lowering it to 20 cycles. And it's like, how is that going to work? I mean, it's like your EQs are all screwed up, and it might help a little bit with the top end transients, but it's been in my experience that it's really, I never liked the way it sounded.
Well, I described, I don't know which record it was. It was an older Mobile Fidelity half speed, and I described the bass as sounding very blobby. And then I remember I got a comment, "What's blobby mean, Steve? Why would you say it was blobby?" But that was just sort of what when I first heard that one, it just didn't sound. It was just a weird sound on the bass. That's how I described it.
Hey, Ed Osborne, are you watching? Ed Osborne.
Is he on the comments?
Late of RCA BMG. He saved my ass on the Elvis. On the Elvis, man, he was such a good special markets guy.
Tell us who Edward Osborne is.
I don't know if he wants the whole world to hear who
All
he
right.
is,
Well, thanks for watching, Edward.
Ed's a good guy, a lifesaver.
Nice. You work with him.
Oh yeah, many times.
Oh, he just said hi, Steve. So
hey, buddy.
Go. Hello.
Hey, Pally.
Not to me, I know. To you, but yeah.
Yeah, I know. So what else? So yeah. So
so half speed mastering. Let's just nip it out. So half speed mastering, not a fan.
No, okay. I find it unnecessary.
So it's gimmicky in your opinion.
It's just, I don't know if it's gimmicky.
Yeah. What do we describe it as then?
The late great Stan Ricker loved half speed mastering. I don't know why he did, but he loved it. And maybe I worked with him on one half speed master. Was it John Coltrane, Lush Life? Maybe we half speeded that. And
someone's gonna be Googling it right now. So if you guys Google that, see if that's correct.
Yeah, I remember he cut it half speed, and then I said, "Oh look, I can't handle this anymore. Cut it at a regular speed, can you?" And he said, "Okay." Life's too short.
Oh, so hang on, it never came out at half speed, is that?
No, I don't believe so. I think
then you don't have to Google it.
I think we tried one side, and then I just decided I wanted to strangle him. Look, Stanley, speed it up. It's just a Van Gelder tape. It's not going to help you.
Did it have the Van Gelder hiss on it?
Oh yes, yeah, not hiss
or
squeal.
Squeal. Yeah.
I remember he said, "What is wrong with this?" And I said, "When you slow that down to half speed, this high pitched squeal becomes that ooh sound, and it's just the end of the world, and you just don't want to deal with it."
So you're 2 for 2. Not a big fan of one step. Not a big fan of half speed mastering.
Give me a Neumann cutting system.
Done.
Neumann cutting system, and make a regular metal processing, as quiet as vinyl as you can have now in the 21st century, and I'm happy.
Okay. Now, here's the next thing. You ready?
Oh, yeah.
You said you wanted to be in the Westman hot seat, live Audiophile Roundtable. So I'm holding up this, Steve. This is a test pressing.
Of what?
This is, you'll like this one. This is a one step of Green Day's American Idiot test pressing. One step.
Cool.
So I'm holding up the test pressing. Why? I want to know your thoughts on test pressings. Do tell.
Well, I happen to have one here that I worked on. It looks, of course, it looks like.
It's the White Album.
Yeah, it looks like. Yes, I know some of you have these.
Can't
And oh, the glare, the glare. It
move it
looks
back a bit. Hang on.
like,
Stop right there. Stop right there. I'm going to make it full. I want to see what it says here. I'm going to see if we can see. No, it's too glare. It's too much of a glare.
yeah, and it's
Forget
just the
it.
master number on
Forget
there.
it. So what are we looking
No,
at?
it's just the master number.
It's not the White Album.
APPSW 824. That's
What does that mean?
that's the old Capitol Records stereo number for a Nat King Cole. Love is the thing.
Hold on. Is that? Hang on one second. So you know what our thumbnail today? Is that the actual master tape you're holding up?
No,
That's a different. That's a Nat King Cole, right?
Yeah, that's something from the Nat King Cole Story album that we did. I can't remember the name of the song, but it was a pain in the butt. I have every one, that I ever worked on going way back to 1982.
Yeah.
And it's it's essential for the manufacturing process. I don't know why they're collectible. In the old days, they used to be collectible because they only made 5 of them at the most. And when the audiophile catalog companies started requesting 100 of them, why? They're not sonically superior to an actual pressing. They're simply quick tests. So the engineer and producer can hear what they have.
Yeah.
And, we used to get in 4, and I would have one, and the boss, Marshall Blonstein, he would have one, and our producer guy, he would have one, and we would open one, and we would play it. If there was a problem or some anomaly, then we would open another one. If the anomaly was in the same place, then we had to call the factory, try it again without the anomaly. If the anomaly was only on one of them, not the other one, then we were good to go. Then they made the record. That's all it was. Some of them sound great, but they're more prone to noise and popping and everything like that. But they, if you get a rare one, it's pretty cool to have. It's just nothing that I would ever covet in the dead of night.
So I mean, hidden somewhere, you have all the test pressings of everything you ever mastered somewhere in that.
Yeah,
that
I
house
do.
of yours.
And what the hell I'm going to do with that?
I was going to ask you about that. I mean, just
I
piece
had
them off to the kids or what?
Well, what are they going to do with them? I had an offer for mucho bucks, but all of a sudden I felt weird because they're not really mine to sell. I mean, they're, I don't know. I've been hanging on to them this whole time. I haven't played one,
That's
in
it's
a long
almost vinyl hoarding.
It is vinyl hoarding,
Yeah.
but it's, there's a lot of blood, sweat, and tears there.
Yep.
So it's like,
it's it's emotional, right? It's like you can't sort of give it up.
Yeah. I want to give a shout out to my friends in Brazil. I see you there.
Who is it?
Doing, Mr. Steven?
Mr.
Take
Steven?
your meds. And hi, Ro. Okay, go on.
So next. Test pressings, like I
yes.
Put that one up. I mean, that was a one step. Had it's a Neotech vinyl. It was a translucent as well. All that. I sounded great. This is the Green Day. I don't know if Green Day is you're a big fan of the Green Day band, but
sure.
Because Sam Matters is came out with Green Day and American Idiot, of course Dookie, and they're coming out with they came out with Linkin Park and Katie Lang, of course, and some other stuff as well.
If I had a Parlophone test of, I don't know, Sgt. Pepper, I'd be thrilled because it's rare as hell because they didn't make very many of them. If you start making 100 of them, it's not rare anymore and it's pointless. So it's just a pressing without the label. And you don't get the artwork and you don't get the cool label. You don't get anything. So, but I don't collect like that. So,
So I think when you listen to records too, I mean, because you've had so much experience with all these master tapes over the years, I mean, I'm sure that is etched in your memory. So I mean, going back to something like You're Waiting for Your Box, the latest Meet the Beatles or the Beatles '65 stuff. Get that box. I want to get. I'm sure everyone wants to hear your thoughts on this. You say this is what about third generation tapes, right? Original
At
master tapes,
least,
third
yeah.
gen at least, right?
Especially something like Beatle 65. I
I
mean,
mean, I
yeah,
think these sound better now because the equipment's better and our
sure.
equipment's better, so that makes it for a much. I can think of greater listening experience as well. I
And
mean,
and also there are some unique mixes on there. Uh, the Word on is a unique mix, and yeah, some others. Long Tall Sally, right? And I Love Her, single tracked, right?
there you go.
So, you know, if you're a vinyl lover, those are essential. And if you don't like the old Capitol sound from back in the 60s, and these probably sound damn good.
I think when we were in one time too, you were mentioning that the Beatle mono CDs is your favorite of these. You think
Yeah.
these are some of the best sounding
Yeah.
albums as well, right? And
Those
why do you feel that these sound so great? Like, what is it about them?
Well, it's not that they sound great. They are what they are.
Okay.
But mastering engineer of those, whoever it was, mastered the old-fashioned correct way. He put the master tape up. He didn't screw with it.
Yep.
The songs that were less compressed with more dynamic range are louder. The songs that are all squashed are lower in volume, just like it ought to be. And so if you want to hear what they really sounded like, that's what they really sounded like. Do they sound all great? No, but that's the most accurate representation of what they ended up with in the recording room. And for that, I love them. Also, they have the true original mixes of Help and Rubber Soul on there. Not the mono ones, but the stereo ones are on there too, right? Yes.
I think
So,
it's yeah.
yeah, on the mono box.
That's right.
So, you know,
That's right.
everybody needs that in their collection.
Gary Massey, was he one of the mastering engineers for
Oh,
that?
I
can't
have
remember.
no idea.
Maybe
Whoever
someone can
mastered
Google
those,
it.
they did it right. They did a good job. Haven't heard
There's
the vinyl, so
I've
I
got
can't.
both. I mean, I mean,
uh,
I listen to those in the car sometimes. That's for
Yeah,
sure.
I love the Beatles. You
I
know,
know.
the older I get, the more I gravitate towards albums number 1 and 2, and sometimes 3. I really like that. Those albums I like them. So, okay, what
So,
else?
well, we promised the folks picks, Steve Hoffman picks. I mean, I don't think they're
Oh,
not going to be too excited with just the Hoffman Church Choir pick.
the Edwin Hawkins singers. When George Harrison heard "Oh Happy Day" and they heard that part, when Jesus he washed my sins. Oh boy, he used that for My Sweet Lord. I mean,
Yeah.
it's like, that part in "Oh Happy Day" where they sing "Oh Happy Day," and then they have that extra chord, "Oh Happy Day when Jesus was." That's exactly what George. I mean, I'm surprised that they should have sued him over, not the chiffon song, Do Lang, Do Lang. What's that called? He's So Fine. It's a combo of He's So Fine and Oh Happy Day. You get My Sweet Lord. Anyway,
Yeah,
love that song.
well, probably "Oh Happy Day" was such an old song. It was wasn't it like a
No, it wasn't an
it
old song.
was
I
sort of a
believe it's their song. Yeah.
that's six. But the hymn itself is an old hymn, though, is what I'm trying to say. Not the
No,
song,
no
right?
way that's an old hymn. I
The
mean,
old
and it
Happy Day
absolutely was.
hymn is like from like million years ago, and then of course Edwin Hawkins singers recorded it back in
Is
'69ish,
it an old
probably.
hymn?
Yeah, of
Is
course
Oh
it is.
Happy Day an old hymn?
I think from like 300 years ago. Sure. That's where they
Not
would have
with
gotten
those,
it from.
yeah,
That's probably
but
why.
not with those chords.
That's probably why George Harrison never got sued because it didn't have any
Yeah,
copyright stuff on it.
public domain.
Right.
Ed Osborne says, don't forget the EP box. Yes, that's also essential. The CD EP box, not just the mono box, but the CD EP
So
box and the
so
singles
the
box.
essentials are this one,
Yeah,
the Beatles in mono CD, and then the EP.
that mono mix of Get Back. Ooh, that is so good.
The beginning of it.
So kills the echoey stereo version. So I have a couple albums here that you may or may not care about. How many of you have seen The Bob Dylan movie.
I haven't.
I haven't.
Okay, I was going to
My
ask you about it.
daughter has.
And did she like? And she's 15. And she's 15.
15,
And she
yeah.
saw it. And what'd she think?
She came in. She had sunglasses on. She was all slouchy, and I went,
Yeah.
"Oh, you liked it?" She said, "Yeah, she liked it." And so of course I had to play for her the original, like a Rolling Stone, and she went, "Boy, they weren't kidding." I said, "Yeah, they nailed it, right? Yeah." If you like that sort of thing, and if you like Joan Baez, pardon the noise, I'm putting this out of here.
Okay, here we go. Putting her up.
Okay, you know what this is, right? Farewell, Angelina. Farewell,
Hang on.
Angelina.
So we got it. So tell us that's the original then?
Well, it's a Vanguard album called Farewell, Angelina.
Okay.
Yeah, I have the original. So, don't bother with that.
So what are we looking at then? This is not the 1965 original then, obviously.
This is an original, but if you squash me back down again, because I look like I'm about to take over.
So
Cisco Music, about 10 to 15 years ago, they did a great vinyl reissue of Farewell, Angelina. And it's one of those to die for records. I just happened to be there the day they were working on it.
Oh, wow.
And much to my surprise and amazement, the original Vanguard master takes were there. And I said, "Are you going to use that to cut this record?" And they said, "Yeah." I said, "I'm so there, man. Send me a copy." Yeah. And it sounds lifelike, like she's in the room with you. So Cisco Music version of Farewell, Angelina by Joan Baez.
You just up the price on Discogs.
That's the demo disc. I have no idea how many they sold. Probably not too many.
Farewell, Angelina was a Bob Dylan song. Daddy, You've Been on My Mind, Bob Dylan. It's all over now. Baby Blue, Bob Dylan. I think there's one more too. Hard Rains Are Gonna Fall, right? So you had 4 on there.
There's a great version of a song that escapes my mind because I'm under pressure here.
Just breathe.
I keep forgetting that I'm talking to more than you.
That's what you got to just remember. Just
called Wild Mountain Time, and it was for some reason, it was a big hit in England. Somewhere on YouTube, excuse me, there's a video from like the middle 1960s from the BBC of Joan Baez singing Wild Mountain Time, and they're all singing along with her, and it's like you have to look that up on YouTube. It's so cool, and it's so anyway. That's on that album.
She took a song from Donovan too. Colors is on that album.
Yeah, I think the album originally came out 1966. The reason I got my copy when I was a kid is because my friend's father said that his wife could not have Joan Baez in the house because she was a commie. So they gave the record to us.
So was she under like a surveillance during that time? Like a lot of those people, they were they're communists, so they like the government had them all surveilled.
Something like that. But anyway, so normally I would have never played Farewell, Angelina when I was a kid, and this was by the Seeds.
Yeah.
That's in joke there.
So Farewell, Angelina, Joan Baez, the Cisco cut in what year would that have been?
Cisco cut, maybe 2010-ish, around there.
You just jacked the price up forever, and they're out buying it right now.
I mean, I that's a really good one. So the other cheapo record that everybody should have, I'm sure you all have this.
We just talked about him today.
This is the OJC of The Way It Was, Art Pepper. And when I say the OJC, I mean a 90s cut. It looks like that. It looks like the real thing. It's not. It's a recut. This is a great sounding jazz album if you like art. Each song on here was an outtake from one of his albums. And the way they made this record in the 1970s was after, I guess, Art was out of the slammer by then, and so one of contemporary's last original albums was to create another Art Pepper album, and so they got the one track left off of each of his albums, and rather than make a EQ copy tape, they just cut the song right out and put it on the reel and made the record. So if you buy this OJC for $12, it's going to sound really good because each song on here was cut from the actual master tape, and it sounds really
Put
good.
it up again,
And
just so
it's
everyone
really
knows.
cheap. $12
OJC.
There've been
Art Pepper,
audiophile.
The Way It Was.
The way it
OJC.
was,
Okay.
dude. West Coast jazz at its best. If you like art, if you like the alto sax, he's always a little sharp on everything. I like that.
Probably
But
pretty good bass sound. The bass would sound pretty good in that one too, I bet.
Yeah, each of these is just has the sound of each of the albums that this was left off of. So it sounds really good, and I'm sure it's really cheap out there because OJC made a ton of them, and I'm sure they're just sitting around. But I can tell you, having seen the mastering notes of this album in the tape box, the OJC is the way to go because it is absolutely about as clean and pure as you're going to get.
Look at this. There it is. So 12 copies, $18 Canadian right now, Steve.
Better grab one if you like art.
There it is.
Oh, Columbia.
OJC.
Huh? Yeah. Okay. Another great sounding album. What's happening?
What time is it? Yeah. Oh, can you hear me?
No, I'm losing you, buddy.
Can you hear me?
Yes. What did you do?
Okay.
You scared me.
I don't know what I did. I tried to share the screen, but yeah. There you go.
Yeah, it didn't work.
That's a good one for $12.
Yeah, this is another cheapo one if you can get it. Gordon Lightfoot, If You Could Read My Mind. Great album, right? The late Dave Shreve brought this over to me. He paid $12 for it on eBay, and I said, "What's that going to sound like?" And he went, "Wait, play it and see." So I'm like, "Oh my God, this is amazing sounding," and it's just the standard Warner Reprise looking record from whenever it came out, and it's just upside down, and it's just really good sounding. And I don't think it really matters which cut you get. It's just a really good sounding album, and you can find one out there for not much money. I'm telling you, they're out there, and if you get a nice clean one, you show off your playback system. You know what I'm saying?
Oh yeah, I hear you. Hey, we should probably, you just had the late Gordon Lightfoot Canadian up. We should probably just give a shout out Garth Hudson, the band.
Yeah.
He passed today. I think he was.
I didn't realize he was 87.
87 years old. He was born in Windsor, Ontario. Passed away today, right? So
seeing those guys in my mind, they're like 28.
Wow.
You know, their second album is just one of the greatest rock albums of all time. I mean, it's in my top 5. There is nothing wrong with that record. It is just amazing. I love that album so much.
Just pick up an original of their second album, or
any redo. They're all going to be cut from a copy tape because only the original first pressing was cut with the original.
No,
only the original, and nobody has it. So it sounds good. It's woody and fat sounding, and it's just sounds really good. Neil Young and the Shocking.
Hold on, did you bring these because me being Canadian? This is like we're just Canadiana right now. I love it.
Things that have been on my turntable recently. The
sorry,
LP.
put it up. I'm putting you on full screen.
Middle 80s, right? You see,
that is so 1980s. You paid $7 at Tower Records.
Tower Records.
Look at that.
I bought this for one song, and
what are we holding up so everyone knows again? Sorry.
Okay, it's Neil Young and the Shocking. His rockabilly phase, right? And there are a couple songs on here that are really cool, and I can tell you my great and utter disappointment when I played the CD of this, and it just sounded like SHIT, all mid-rangey and weird sounding. And I said, what happened? So I grabbed my album and I put it on.
So
sounds really, really, really good.
And that's just the original then?
Yeah, this is the real 80s. I mean, I'm sure these were around. Just pay $8 or $9, and it's really, really good. Last one I want to show you is an album that you should all have, because even if you don't know who it is, you've heard these songs many times in many movies. Sergio Mendes and Brazil, 66. Their first album, Herb Albert Presents. I'm sure most of you have this record. A&M
So
Records.
is that an original as well, or which one are we getting?
No, it's an original label, but this record, God, this record was cut so many times. Is that your dog or my dog?
I think that's my dog.
Good. I was, it was cut really a lot of times, but I don't know, I've heard 5 or 6 in the 1960s into the 1970s, and they all sound good. That was engineered by Mr. Bruce Botnick at Sunset.
I know him.
I know you do. And it was mastered at A&M, and they sold 900,000 copies of this, and it sounds really good, and it's really cheap out there. So I suggest that you buy it for a real change of pace. Did we talk about this last time? The music of Bob Cooper?
We did. I have a copy of that. I'm putting that full screen. I'm going to shut my door because I want this dog to be quiet. So just you talk to the folks for 2 seconds. Go.
Okay. Music of Bob Cooper. You got your copy. It's on OJC. It's really great sounding album. And it is, nice West Coast jazz, and nobody knows who he is, so it should not cost a lot of money. And it's a really good one. I know I mentioned it already last time, but it's a really good one. It's a really great sounding album. So I got thousands more records, but these were just on my turntable this week. So
those are the Steve Hoffman picks of the week.
No, you asked me to grab some
records,
and so I grabbed what I was listening to this week.
So we also promise a couple things. So the future of audiophile mastering and the master tape, just where do you, like in 10 years from now, we want to preserve these tapes, right? I mean, long term for, next generation after that. At some point, are we never going to go back to the master tape? It's going to be just the digital source, DSD, or whatever it might be. Is that where you're, like, is that at 10 years from now, or is that in 20 years from now? At some point, the record labels are going to say, hang on, no longer.
Yeah, I think that ship is long sailed, hasn't it? I mean, maybe you could get something from Warner Brothers if you ask nicely, but
Rhino Hi-Fi is doing it. I mean, we still know Chad from Analog Productions.
They are Warner Brothers, so yeah. So but I mean, we got Peter, Paul, and Mary. That was a good thing, and that was about the last of the ones that I worked on. But we had to sign our life away for that, and I mean, has everything been issued already now? I mean, is there, what else is there? I mean, what have we missed?
Maybe one day they'll remaster Asia again. What do you think?
Sure.
Yeah.
78. One song aside.
Katie Lied is coming out soon for the Analog Productions one, so I think that's this month.
That was a good album too. There's one really good song that I really love on that album. Are you Dr. Wu? Yeah, Dr.
Wu, yeah.
God, I love that song
originally.
That song has that album has no mid-range whatsoever. It is absolutely without mid-range. It's just why they mixed it that way.
Katie Lied, that's the big debate with Katie Lied. It's the DBX thing, right? Is that nothing to do with mid-range?
Nothing. No, that has nothing to do with it. It's just they mixed it on a pair of horn monitors,
right.
And so horn monitors have all this mid-rangey stuff, so they didn't add any. And when you hear the tape, it's like this, and so you scratch your head. There's a little top end, and some low end, kind of like a MoFi LP from 1980. So it's
some of those.
Yeah.
I like the sound of those late early 80s MoFis. It's just because I've had them and I just know the sound. I don't know.
They are so far away from the actual sound of the tapes. I can't.
Right? Smiley EQ.
Very smiley. Well, Katie Lied has that smiley built right in, so you're gonna
I
have
have
to.
that one too on the MoFi. Yeah.
You're gonna have to. Oh, that's extra smiley.
Yeah.
That's
Well, okay. So
double
let's
smiley.
get ahead of this. So I was mentioning Katie Lied's going to be coming out. The digital cut, they recut it digitally. That's coming out this month, and then I think at some point, Analog Productions 45 RPM Clarity Vinyl UHQR is coming out. DBX. There's going to be this DBX debate. It's not going to sound good because of DBX. And I know I've asked you this before. Well, you asked me who's master. I said, well, Bernie Grundman. Because he's got a DBX converter, so it should be fine. So should we worry too much, or should there be much of a DBX debate on Steely Dan's Katie Lied? Should there be?
No, there shouldn't be any debate.
Tell us why.
Sounds good. There was I can't remember now. There was a half-inch Dolby A copy, and then there was the DBX version. It was a giant reel. It was a 14-inch reel.
Yeah.
So it sounded good. You get your DBX in there and you pop it in, and it has no mid-range, and you have to add some. But that was a mixing choice. That had nothing to do with the DBX, in my opinion. So, but if you take care of your tapes, oxide will last forever if it's stored correctly. Mr. Christopher, there shouldn't be any degradation, any problem with it. It's usually operator error or hot air that causes an issue. But nonetheless, I still hear your dog.
I know.
Ruff, ruff.
He's a big lab.
Cute. We have a whole bunch of. Oh, they're sleeping.
You got yours behind you. Yours are like tired there in California. That's probably the thing.
Yeah, she's a big old poodle doodle.
So Steve, like the debate with the DBX, it was the DBX setting was the mistake. Aggie 88 is saying on Katie Lied. Actually, is that
how so? It was a choice they made. They were so concerned about noise, and
DBX had to be carefully calibrated, much like Dolby A.
Like anything, it has tones, and something I worked on with at Audio Fidelity. Who's the guy who wrote the theme from Taxi?
God, you're putting me on the spot.
His album was a Rudy Van Gelder. Rudy Van Gelder went DBX crazy, and all his albums were mixed on DBX. And so when we got the album, it was like, oh,
Bob James.
No.
Bob James.
Yeah, thank you. So Mr. Kevin Gray said, I have DBX in it right here.
Okay.
Read it up the tape, hit the tones, hit the DBX, and it sounded great. So it's like, okay, that was easy. Anyway, whatever.
So you're not worried about it. You're saying before it even comes out, it should be fine.
Look, I have the old LP, and it sounds like it sounds. So, I like the sound. I like the album.
I really like that album.
All Mr. G has to do, I hope he's okay. His house burned down.
Yeah, no kidding. It's too bad.
Jesus Almighty. That can really take a lot out of you, I mean, it's like, I can just imagine.
I can't imagine. Losing everything.
Your life is in there, It's just,
I'm assuming he lived there a long time as well, Mr.
Not there anymore, No. As a matter of fact, a lot of my friends in the Pacific Palisades are homeless now, and it's weird, I mean, it's just not my post, Ed, but close. Yeah, Bob James. Anyway, yeah. So Van Gelder used it and loved it, and DBX, I mean. So I wouldn't worry about that. Yeah. And if I remember correctly, there's the DBX master plus Dolby A flat transfer and an ABC cutting master of that album. So I'm sure Bernie's going to choose whichever one sounds, the most human, and he's going to use that. I mean, who cares if it's the master anymore? It is whatever sounds the best is the one that you're going to use. So,
Well, this DBX bias, I'm sure it'll be posted on the Hoffman forums.
Aggie
All the
88, no,
posts.
Kevin Gray's house did not
No,
burn.
Kevin's house is fine.
Bernie Grunman's
Yeah.
house.
Bernie's did, yeah.
So anyway, yeah, I'm looking forward to that. I mean, I see no problem.
Like you remastered it for CD too, didn't you?
No.
The Katie lied. I thought you did.
Yeah, Katie lied.
Yeah.
Yeah, I get that one and Countdown to Ecstasy mixed up.
Okay.
Yeah, Katie lied.
Yeah, I don't have
And,
that. I have the, yeah, I thought you did. That would have been mid '80s or early '80s or something.
That would have been 1980.
84.
Yeah. And I can remember adding about 5 dB at 3K to that.
Because
it needed mid-range. It was hollow. You have to, when you have hollow, it doesn't sound good. It sounds like you're listening to a recording rather than the actual thing. So I just wanted to make it sound a little better. I mean, I worked on that in under an hour. I said, okay, hit it. It wasn't a project. It was just one of 8 albums that day. So
I was going to ask you too. I mean, how many times would you run, like before you actually master it? Would you run the master tape just to get a feel or a listen
of
to
what?
the album, of any album, like before you
No,
guys are going to master?
no.
Just a once and that's it.
Pick something.
Okay, so Asia. Like
No,
you got the tapes of Asia.
No, pick something other than Asia. I don't want to talk about Asia again. I'm Asia'd out. Although I'm still not tired of it.
I know you're not tired. Did we do some sort of shootout of Asia? Did we do something like that?
Yeah, we did, Stephen.
Did we? Oh, okay.
Yeah, you don't remember that?
Of course I remember that. Okay, something like, well, I mean, going back, like CCR. Right? Okay, CCR Cosmo Factory.
Very good. Cosmo Factory.
I love that record. Sounds good. I have yours.
Yeah.
So you get the box. There's the tape. You and Kevin put it on. What do you do with it?
I ran it once, made a CDR of it straight, brought it home, played the CDR.
So full stop there. This is consistent. Sorry. Yeah. So you're making a digital copy.
Yeah.
And listening to that, getting a feel for it digitally, because you don't want to run the tape too often, obviously.
Yeah. So then I made notes on what I thought it needed at home.
Yeah.
And then the next day, threaded it up again. We worked our magic on it. That was it. Then we recut it again. Yeah, we ran it twice, I guess. Yeah, once for the SACD and once for the vinyl. And as we were doing the SACD, we did a CD transfer at the same time. So yeah, we ran the tape 3 times. So that's all. And it sounded damn good every time.
I love that album.
CCR,
the Wally Heider, I mean, that's where they recorded those. Those are great studios, some good qualities, quality studio, great sounding records coming out of that studio for years, right? Well, Grateful Dead as well, some good stuff.
Yeah.
Back in the day.
Yeah.
You want to take some questions?
Yeah, sure. Ask away.
Okay, folks, your time to shine. Are you ready for them?
Sure.
You're enthusiastic, ready to do this?
I'm ready.
Okay, here we go. UTP216. Why doesn't the master engineer make a one-to-one tape copy as soon as they run the tape the first time, then work from that copy?
Well, then it's not from the original master tape. It's, from a copy.
And that's who's going
to pay $80, for that? Oh, wait a minute. A lot of people, I would imagine. I mean, a tape copy, analog versus digital. I mean, it's a can of worms, but making a one-to-one is sometimes necessary when your master tape has way too many anomalies in it and you can't make a record because one song has been damaged or another song is out of phase or blah, blah, blah. Then you need to make a proper cutting master. And, sometimes, as in the case of the Impact's version of Gets Gilberto, Bob Donnelly and AB just decided to run it straight, flaws and all. Now, if we'd have tried that back in the 90s, we would have gotten our asses handed to us. So, but nowadays, I guess it's okay. So
Someone is asking,
that's
how are things on the forum, Steve? You've got, what, 12 mods on there?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
You talk to them a lot?
yeah. Every day, we get a million hits a day, so we have a lot of things going on there, and we have a lot of new members who aren't so hip to proper forum protocol.
Ooh.
And
Ooh.
my pet peeve is if you go on there raving about an album that you just heard or you just bought or you just spent $500 on, you need to list your equipment that you're playing it back on. Because if you're going to tell somebody else to spend $500 on some import from England, we need to have some kind of reference. What are you listening on? What are are you,
Reference gears, folks, on the forum.
I mean, it's not even, it doesn't even have to be up there. Just
Yeah.
what are you listening on? Is it horn? Is it horn gear?
Okay. Well, because it's subjective to sound different too, right? Different
Sure,
equipment.
but there are some members on there who have been there for over 20 years.
Yeah.
We have a pretty good idea of what they like, and we trust their opinion, but some guy comes on there all enthusiastic. Oh man, this
full
is
of piss
great.
and vinegar.
I
Right.
can finally hear the top end, and then you hear the brightness. It's screechy and horrible. It's like, what are you listening on, dude? So
put your reference your gear.
yeah,
Got one for you here, Tublandia. What does Steve think about backwards 1-to-1 versus normal direction 1-to-1 in terms of generation loss?
Well, it's the same generation, but as I learned from an old mastering engineer, Mr. Dave Hernandez, who worked at MCA Whitney, always make your copy backward, easier on the transients. So always make your copy backward.
I think when I had Mr. Kevin Gray on, he learned that from Bruce Botnick as well, doing a backwards transfer as well.
Sure, he did. You can learn a lot from Mr. Bruce Botnick. I've had the pleasure of having many conversations, some of which, turned into screaming matches, but most were,
and you kissed and made up, though, I hope.
Oh, yeah, of course.
Yeah.
All my, the Doors and Happy Together by the Turtles and
I like that
Love Forever Changes in My Little Red Book and anything from Sunset Sound. It's him, it's his, it's his great recording technique. And I can remember when the E.T. soundtrack came out, and I was one of the few that got to hear his actual analog version of the E.T. soundtrack, and man, that thing sounded really, really good. Boy, yeah, he's a great engineer. One of my faves.
Michael T is asking, how different was the mastering chain when you and Kevin cut for DCC versus the ATM chain at RTI?
What's the ATM chain?
I'm asking the questions. Reading them, I should say. I'm not asking them. I guess different chain, right? A different.
We cut all over the place. LRS in Burbank, Feature Disc in Hollywood with Mr. Steve Hall, and
so it's hard to remember the differences. Is what I'm figuring out here.
No. As long as Kevin is there, it's going to sound exactly the way we want it to sound. Because he is the master of all gear, and he likes the same gear, and the gear that he likes and the gear that he uses is his own gear, so it's always there. So
well, it's just consistent. I mean, I know all of your guys' mastering, and even today's Kevin's is a consistent sound that's coming out of that gear. Really,
yeah, whether you like that sound or not, that's something that you can decide for yourself.
Well, and I think when you guys work together, and even when Kevin's doing it now, I don't think you don't mess around with the master tape too much. I mean, you're listening to that thing, you're not doing a lot of major changes. I mean, I know Kevin doesn't,
No,
anyways, even to this day. You can
no,
tell.
about maybe an hour, hour and a half. If it's okay and you have it together. I mean, if it's a hard one like Fleetwood Mac Rumors was an absolute nightmare. Oh, Acoustic.
Yeah,
Yeah,
acoustic.
same system.
Yeah, thought so.
Yeah, the same one at
So
Future Disc.
that was one of my questions. This is a bit. I know someone had asked this. So you did the Fleetwood Mac 33 RPM. You also did the Fleetwood Mac 45 RPM. Obviously, you'd have to master it more than once for those cuts. Tell us about. There was a difference in sound? Do you think they're pretty much the same?
Well,
Because the
that,
45 RPM is very much sought after, Steve. And
yeah.
I know during COVID it was a over $150 record at one point because it's very, very scarce.
Well, that's
So we're
because
talking Fleetwood Mac 45 RPM, Steve Hoffman.
nobody bought it, I guess. I don't know. I mean,
But is the 33 versus the 45 the same? You feel like really? Is it just really
well,
just
we added 1 dB at 6K to the high speed version, so it's going to sound a little more snappy
yeah?
than the regular one. I didn't want to add 1 dB at 6K, but it was so tempting because the sides were so short and we could crank the volume up so high. Yeah, we just helped it a little bit. So that's probably what you're hearing. But normally, that they must have, as I know I've mentioned this many times, they must have had an inkling that this was going to be a very popular album, because when they did the mixes for Rumors, they used 2 machines going at once, so they could have 2 sets of first generation tapes. And over the years, Mr. Ken Perry has remastered that maybe 80 times.
Wow.
And each time, of course, it evolved, brighter, echoier, and the original tapes were screwed around. They were elongated. Songs were changed. It was just a mess. But when we finally got to, get it all in order, we could actually cut from the original. We cut it at +3 for the LP version, and then for the high speed, it was like we just added an extra 3 dB and 1K and 1 dB at 6K. So
So yeah, 45. Well, a lot of times people like the 45 RPMs. I mean, just a little bit. Well, I wouldn't say brighter sound, maybe.
yeah, but it screws up the flow of your album.
Well, that's another debate. I think that's a debate on the Hoffman forums as well. I mean, I always like to talk about this. Can you imagine if someone from the Brain Trust at Abbey Road decided to do Abbey Road by the Beatles at 45 RPM? That would just not work for me, just because you're so used to that 33 RPM flow in the track list. It would be weird. That just wouldn't work for me.
Well, unless they, I mean, I would want to hear that if they use the tape. I don't want to hear someone's.
So it's dependent upon the album then that it's a pain in the ass. So for instance, you would actually want to hear the 45 on Abbey Road by the Beatles because of the sound.
Sure.
Okay.
I mean, we've all heard that on the Japanese CD, and it's a pretty good sounding album. I mean, it's their best sounding album.
Yeah.
So, but if it screws up side 2,
You can't break up side 2. I'm
not
sorry. It's not
interested.
allowed.
No,
Ever.
not interested.
Can't do it.
The original British import LP from 1969 to like 1973 of Abbey Road with a inner sleeve that's black. That's a really nice sounding Harry Moss record.
Can't go wrong with Harry Moss.
Harry, baby.
You ever talk to Harry Moss, or is that not your time?
No, he never did. I didn't even know who he was.
Yeah.
Yeah,
you can't break up Abbey. You can't break up side 2, right? Because what is it?
No.
It goes. I want you. She's so heavy, and then that dead stop on that song, and then you flip it over, and it's Here Comes the Sun. We go Here Comes the Sun because you never give me your money, and it goes into the whole medley. I mean, you can't break that up. It just wouldn't work. Like, what are you going to do? If you're going
polite.
to do it at 45, what are you going to do? You're going to have the, on that, you're going to have what? Here Comes the Sun and Because? And then have
Yeah,
the medley after that? I guess that's all you would
yeah,
do. And then the other side four would
yeah.
be the medley.
I mean,
Weird.
but that's nothing to John Coltrane, A Love Supreme. I mean, why they did that? Why you do that, boys? You cut up A Love Supreme into quarters. It's like, no, don't do that.
Yeah.
Drives
I don't know, just some albums.
me
Even
bonkers.
Rumors, though, when you guys did the 45 RPM of Fleetwood Mac Rumor, even that, it's like, oh, you're so used to the actual track list of the 33. It's kind of hard to get used to.
It throws
It's
some
worth
people
it, though.
off.
It sounds great.
It's louder.
Yeah, it's louder.
It's a little louder, and it's probably easier to track.
How much louder these 45s be? About 2 dBs louder?
Oh, no.
Not even that?
3 dB.
It's 3? Okay.
Yeah, 3 dB louder. So that's louder.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not that much louder, but it makes a difference, in the surface noise of the record is way down there. But
right. Tim's got a question for you. What's your opinion on Who's Next, Decca Doug Sax versus a UK track?
Well, the UK is an EQ copy of the Doug Sax EQ copy. And
hold on. So tell us that again. Slower.
The original tape of Who's Next came over from England on German passive tape, or was it ELAC? I can't remember now. Yeah. Anyway, it was green and came over because Pete Townsend wanted Mr. Doug Sax to make a record. Why? I don't know, but he wanted the late and great Mr. Doug Sax, my favorite historical mastering engineer. Anyway, so Doug Sax created his own cutting master, a tape copy, and he cut all American Who's Next from that. Then he made a production copy of that for England, and then they used that. So, of course, I got the English import immediately, but I was unimpressed. And I liked the Doug Sax version, but when I finally heard the master tape, when I uncovered it in 1983 at the mastering lab after all those years, I was like, whoa, this sounds better. Yeah. So sadly, I never got to actually make an LP with it, only a CD. And it was shedding like crazy then. That yellow-green backing on there was shedding all over our hands and all over the tape machine. It was a nightmare. So yeah.
So your favorite historical mastering engineer was Doug Sax in terms of just really capturing the master tape, the sound of that. So here's a question for you. Here's a question. So we've heard of Pink Floyd, Dark Side of the Moon, 1973. It's all over the Hoffman forums. Which one is the best cut ever? Doug Sax and Kevin Gray did the 30th anniversary MEI copy that came out. That would have been 2003. Could that be the copy to own?
Well, I have it on colored vinyl. They made it, some of them, and I liked it. Look,
historically, I mean, he would have nailed it with Mr. Kevin Gray there, with the equipment.
Yeah, if you like the sound of the master tape, sure. It's a Abbey Road. I mean, it.
Yeah.
I personally like the original American pressing of it.
Like the first original.
Yeah, the one that you could buy. That's the one that I liked. I had the import. That was okay too. If you want to hear what it really sounds like, then the Doug Sax Kevin Gray collaboration. I remember Mr. Doug Sax, after he used the bathroom at RTI, he said, "I'm buying you guys a toilet seat."
Oh God,
this is insane. I said, "Yeah, it is insane."
They couldn't afford a toilet seat back then?
Oh no, they had one. It was
just well
really
used,
uncomfortable one. I'm buying you guys a toilet seat. So he was a character. But yeah, I loved his work. He did no harm. He did no damage. He made everything shine. And the other guy I like, other than Mr. Kevin Gray, is Steve Hall, one of the founders of Future Disc. He was a great engineer. He came from MCA Whitney also, and he in his mastering room he had these pair of RCA U-Bangies, giant monitors out of I believe in Grauman's Chinese, and he had these set up in there, and they were huge playback speakers, and he never really used them. He had a small little monitor that he used on top of them, but I said, I want to hear something out of those U-Bangies. And
have a look at that. I got his Future Disc Mastering website up, so there's
our boy. But
yeah.
where are the U-Bangies? Yeah, those things were so loud and so screechy, man. Wow. But yeah, he's a great mastering engineer. He did traveling Wilburys, and
look
he
what he's
did
doing here. Tom Petty, Full Moon Fever.
Everything. He's who I would hire if our other guys weren't available. I mean, he's really a great mastering engineer and a really great guy. And he lives on a farm now. He raises alpacas and everything. I don't know if he has his hand in the game anymore, but he's my friend on Facebook. So, but he's a good guy.
Say hi.
And he did good work. I remember every time there that I needed to do a interview or something on TV or something from a magazine or a newspaper, I would go in there into his large room and go, Steve, can I use your room for my interview so people will be more impressed? He would always go, sure.
Yeah.
So I see he'd sit out in the hall and I would go in there, smoking my big old cigar. And look at this. But yeah, he was a good guy. Anyway, next question.
I'm waiting to see what other questions do you see any there that you want to answer?
You're asking me if I can actually read.
Well, going back the whole oxide thing with the master tape, at some point does the oxide just wear right out and you can never ever use them? Like, what's the real story there?
The only time I ever saw that ever happen ever was on an album by Joni Mitchell called Ladies of the Canyon.
Oh yeah,
it was played back on a 3M machine with these little pads, right? To hold the tape right on the head, and when you hold the tape up where the pad was, you could see right there. It was clear. It was like, shit, I can't do this one.
Oh,
that's the only time in my entire career that I ever saw a master tape that I couldn't work with or that didn't sound good. Even the Amboy Dukes with Ted Nugent, when they had green mold on them, that was okay. I could still work.
Mold on the tapes.
Green mold.
Were they left in a bathroom?
Yes. Or set of what the heck was that had it? The box came over and there was a little dead mouse in it. It was like, mouse. There's a mouse in here. This sucks, man. This is not a good omen to have a petrified mouse in your master tape box. Oh yeah, I remember what tape that was, but I'm not going to mention it.
So that's probably the craziest surprise ever out of a master box tape you've ever experienced.
Yeah, that was like unexpected.
Maybe answer this. Kid, 1960. I bet you that's the year he was born. Why was your Master of Bad Company's Burnin' Sky not released by Audio Fidelity?
I don't know.
Okay.
Legal issues.
There you go.
Nothing to do with me.
Hang on. Z-Bop, Steve H. What would be your dream LP to work on if you could
LP?
now?
Ever
now.
One LP?
The Beatles, Abbey Road, at 45 RPM.
Probably the White Album.
Yeah.
But only because some of the songs on there, I hear them and I know what I would do to make them sound really good. And no one's ever.
Okay, so example. So at White Album, Drop the Needle, side 1, track 1. You got the airplane sound back to the USSR. Yeah. So what would you do there? I know the song.
The mono or the stereo?
Gotta go mono.
What would I do there? Not much. I would reduce the 8K a little bit, and I would add something higher, to get that air, and then I would fill in the low end a bit so it was not so clangy sounding. And other than that, you'll have to pay me.
We're going to start a GoFundMe account, ladies and gentlemen, tonight.
Where's my fee? Uh,
We're gonna
the white
smash that button. Tell everyone to smash the like button, Steve.
Smash the button.
Thank you.
Smash button.
Big.
Hulk smash.
Put
Hulk.
that thumb up. Boom.
You
Like
know,
that.
hey, did we talk about the White Album? The white vinyl Apple English version?
We can.
That's the best sounding White Album. You got to get that
So
one.
okay,
White
that's the
vinyl,
white vinyl,
UK,
UK.
Parlophone,
What year
Apple
was that?
label, 19, whenever the craze was it 1978?
I want to say 78. Yeah.
The
Okay.
reason is not because of the white vinyl, friends, but because they recut the parts. For whatever reason, they recut the parts to do that. Maybe it was another plant that could, do colored vinyl over there, but they had to recut all the parts. So you have a 1978 recut of the White Album, and it sounds really good. I mean, it's just, you hear Cry Baby Cry on there, and it's like, oh my God, this is sonic heaven.
Love that song.
So, white vinyl, White Album, English.
You're killing everyone. It's going to go up in value.
Oh, it's unobtainium right now, isn't it?
So University of Vinyl says he's got the German white and it's a DMM cut.
Yeah, I have that. I haven't played it. I can't comment on it because I haven't played it recently. I have 8 or 9 of them, I guess now.
So White Album's your favorite Beatles album then?
No, it's my least favorite.
Oh. So
it's just
Abbey Road.
It came out when I was young and impressionable, and I must have played it every day.
Right in your emotional wheelhouse.
Years, Rocky Raccoon. Yeah. I mean, I went so freaking crazy on the White Album that it's literally, I can't listen to half of it anymore. I mean, I can, it's a great album, but I'm just so over it. It was like...
Which girlfriend were you reminiscing about when you listened?
Way too young for Girlfriends when that came out. But by the end of Abbey Road, a girl I liked also liked it. So every time I hear anything on Abbey Road, it just reminds me of her. She was so cute, and she loved that album so much.
I just for that, like when Abbey Road, I mean the medley, the Sun King is here comes.
Oh yes,
the Sun
great album.
King.
It's tinged with sadness because it's their last album. It didn't have to be. It's their last album.
Sad.
And if they weren't being such assholians with each other, we could have got at least one more album out of it after that. Just imagine that. One more.
Well, think about all the material that George Harrison was already making for All Things Must Pass. I mean, some of that stuff would have gone on in the next Beatles album, right? And so would have
the problem with All Things Must Pass is that without the input of John and Paul, it's really, all that reverb on there and all those.
Well, that's a Phil Spector wall of sound thing, though.
Yeah, but it's not the wall of sound because it's the wrong echo. It's just echo for the sake of echo. I mean, I liked it at the time. It was a sound, but when you hear it now, it's like, yeesh, back it off.
There's the 50th anniversary, which doesn't sound good, but I also have the 30th anniversary, and I actually don't mind that one.
Yeah, I eagerly awaited
I'd have to listen to it again.
The original CD when it came out. I was very excited about that. I heard it, and it was like they used so much noise reduction on it.
Yeah.
Every time the song got lower than a certain level, it went like this, and like this. And when it got louder, it came out, and then when it got quieter again, it clicked. And I heaved it out my window. I was so mad. I said, "What sounds good for All Things Must Pass?" I said, "Wait a minute," and I pulled out my own Apple 1971, that I saved for, and I put it on, and oh my God, it sounds fantastic. It sounds fantastic. The original, mastered by, in New York, I believe, Bell Sound, right? It just sounds perfect.
Well, speaking of All Things, I mean, My Sweet Lord. I mean that could have been a Beatles song easily, right? I mean, if you said one more album, that would have been it wasn't a big hit anyways. Who knows what it would have been like with the Beatles on there?
Imagine the background singers if had been Paul and John. Hurry, Mama. That would have been.
Well, because it was Ringo Starr, Eric Clapton, Gary Brooker, and Bobby Whitlock, right?
All those dudes.
Badfinger.
All those dudes.
Yeah.
No, they weren't on the album. They were just in the concert for Bangladesh, right?
I think they were part of that. Not my mistake.
No, I don't think they were on there. But anyway, I liked that album at the time. It was
So here, I just looked it up.
Wonderful.
So obviously George Harrison. So Eric Clapton, Pete Ham, Joy Mullen, Peter Frampton was on acoustic
Oh,
guitar. Gary Brooker was on piano. Bobby
oh,
Whitlock was on harmonium.
I stand corrected.
Klaus Verman bass. Ringo
Klaus,
Starr drums,
my
and Helen
least
White timbre.
favorite bass player of that era.
I
My
like this.
least
I like.
favorite bass
Didn't Klaus do the Didn't he design the Revolver album for the Beatles? Is that not him?
He did, and he also played bass on my favorite solo Beatle album, the Plastic Ono Band, where his bass actually sounds, right. Boom, 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 boom. I mean,
Oh, he's probably still a better bass player than Stu Sutcliffe ever was or could have been.
We'll never
Because he
know.
couldn't play bass.
How
Stu
hard
would
could
just
the Beatles?
stand there, stand
Yeah.
behind, stand with your back to the crowd so no one can see you play.
I think he could have probably picked it up,
Yeah.
eventually.
One will never
Anyway, what else we got here?
I'm looking.
Yeah. Come on, guys.
Well, Klaus was in Manfred Mann as well, Norman was saying.
Yeah. Which Manfred Mann? There's so many of them. Not the Blinded by the Light Manfred
Blinded by the light.
Man.
You like Manfred Mann? Big fan?
I like Spirits in the Night.
Yeah.
All right. And I like Blinded by the Light. And I like, do-ah-diddy-diddy-dum-diddy-do.
I already know that from the movie Stripes with Bill Murray in 1982 with John Candy and Harold Ramis. That's a classic.
I don't really know much else Manfred Mann. I mean,
Blue Notes done in mono? Do you think the Blue Notes should have been done in mono?
Nope.
Jack Falco.
You lose all the... If you have a really good playback system, you can hear, even though there's sometimes only left and right, if a sound is hit a sharp percussive, you can hear it right in the center, but bouncing off the wall. And you lose that in mono. But you have it in stereo. The trick is, if you want to hear it in mono, just combine your channels, because that's what they did. You know that. The Blue Notes are just in stereo, but they're played back on a mono machine. But, if you have it in true stereo and you want to hear it in mono, just either hit your mono button or Y chord yourself into mono, and you can have, 2 albums for the price of
one. So we're not going to answer this because you'll have to watch the repeat. Steve's opinion on one steps.
Yeah, you missed it.
You didn't remind me to do this. You were going to remind me. You didn't do this.
What?
Where you can also listen to this on
Spotify.
Yeah.
And who would ever want to do that? I don't know.
And where else can you listen to this live Audiophile Roundtable?
You told me, but I forgot.
Apple Podcast, as well as a repeat on YouTube on this channel.
You know what's interesting? Spotify, there's a song I like. It's called Toast and Marmalade for Tea by Tintin. It's not on Spotify. I couldn't find it.
Copyrights.
No, everything else is on there, but that's not on there. Toast and marmalade for tea.
Norman Maslow. Do you know if the early Birds tapes are gone? She's been gone so long.
Gone. I love that.
Do you know who sings that?
I love SCTV.
Well, Gone, she's been gone so long is a band called Chilliwack, which is just this way from me. And they also had another Canadian band. They also had another big hit, California Girls, California.
You're dating yourself, dude.
I love that. Was
early
big Canadian radio play as
How
a Canadian, early? Love it.
I don't think they're gone. They're just.
I don't see you as a big streaming guy. That's not your thing at all. You're not a streamer.
In the car.
You stream on Spotify. You have a Spotify account?
Absolutely. I have all of my kids' playlists. They have some of the greatest playlists. I taught them well. They have old, they have modern stuff. So I'm hearing stuff I've never heard in my life, and they're hearing stuff that they like from our years of riding in the car to school. you know, my kids have, the greatest song selection. So I just choose one of their playlists and I go to town in the car, and it's just like I'm never disappointed. I have to pat myself on the back for that.
Aqualung on one of our shows. You talked about Aqualung and the
Yeah.
tapes, didn't you? We had a whole. We're not. I think you had a whole. We've talked about it more than once. So if you want to go back to one of our past live audiophile roundtables, I think we had a full discussion on the Aqualung with Ian
So
Anderson.
how does the new
Big.
Door stuff sound?
That's behind me here. Do you see it? This here,
Point to it. Oh,
right here.
yeah.
It's the Doors box.
Haven't heard it. They forgot to send me my copy, so I can't comment on it. I have no idea what it sounds like. I would assume it sounds okay, right?
I'm liking it.
Okay. Yeah, it's pretty hard to screw up the Doors. I mean, the only problem is after Strange Days, everything is Dolby A. And as I've mentioned many times, I hate Dolby A.
I do.
No two units sound alike, and it's like you have to go through all this extra rigmarole, and you still don't know if you're getting it right. But who mastered those? Kevin?
Yeah,
Gray?
with of
Oh,
course Mr. Botnick.
oh yeah.
I had him on a couple weeks ago. They were on.
But
We had that chat.
he was involved in the mastering too?
He was there at the studio.
How'd that go, I wonder? Kevin, my man. All right. How many cooks spoil the broth? I don't know.
We already talked about the whole DBX thing, so I mean, we don't need to hit it up again. If you go back in this stream, we hit that one, didn't we?
Yeah.
Hang on. I see this one. Stephen James. A lot of Steves. Hi, Steve. Is there any good recordings, masterings recommended on CD of Joan Baez, Diamonds?
I don't know.
Rust.
CD. I have the original Diamonds and Rust on is it A&M on A&M.
Yeah.
And let me tell you a quick story about that. In after school and on the weekends, I worked at a radio station in Hollywood, KPFK, our local commie radio station, and they had like 120,000 FM stereo watts, and it was in the middle 1970s or so. There was a show on Sunday night, Folk Scene, with Howard and Roz Larman, and I was their engineer along with a couple other guys. Anyway, one night, it was a Sunday night, they had some guy on, the back doorbell rang, and I ran back to opened the door with Joan Baez holding her guitar.
Hold on.
He said, "Can I come in?"
What?
Sure. I said, I was all, I guess I kind of look like I look now, but my hair was brown, but still long. So she talked to me.
Yeah.
She said, "I was just on KROQ, K-Rock, and I was doing an interview with them, and they insulted me. So I walked off, but I'm in the mood to play.
Oh.
So can I come in and play?" So we brought her in. We put one mic on her face, one mic on her guitar. We had a reel-to-reel with a 14-inch pancake. We, so we could have an air check of her. And they put her right on the air, and she got her guitar out, and she sang Diamonds and Rust right there, just like that. Well, I'll be damned. No echo or anything, just her. And it was, we were weeping, man. That was like a life highlight. Anyway, love Joan Baez. What else?
You're aging yourself. That was like 50. That was like 50 years ago.
No, this was like 1978.
Okay, well, that song was what, 50 years old at least. Well, now it is 50.
Well, that album came out in the early 70s.
74. Yeah, 74.
Yeah, that was great.
I was only a year old.
Yeah, me too. But I am telling you, her voice when she's here and you're sitting here, I never heard anything like it. And she had
the hairs on your neck stand up type of thing.
She had that Martin guitar that they use, with the shells around it, the 0045, the Bob Dylan guitar, she had that one, just lugging it around in her case, and it was just like so great. Anyway,
Aggie88 was saying that Dylan was pretty hard on Baez in the movie A Complete Unknown. I haven't seen it yet, so I can't comment.
No, I haven't seen it. I can't comment on that, but that wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah.
Yeah, Joan, mastered by Kevin and Steve.
I was going
Yeah,
to
I
get to that
remember
one.
that
Sorry.
one. Yeah, I
So Joan
remember
Baez,
that.
mastered by Kevin and Steve's
Yeah,
incredible, good, pure pleasure release.
yeah, it was English LP import. Yeah, I remember that. That was good.
You like
Yeah,
that one?
you got to love Joan. The best Joan album, if you want a
Yeah, I
sampler,
was
is
going to
it's
ask you that.
called 10 Years Ago. Or no, it was a double album called 10 Years, or the first 10 years, something like that. Anyway, it's the greatest hits album. It has early stuff. It has Love is Just a 4-letter word on it, which is one of the
Like that one.
great songs.
Yeah.
I can't remember if it has Virgil Kane is my name on it. I have to let the dog out, so talk amongst yourself.
Well, there's 23 songs on that one. He's probably not listening right now, but yeah, on that, I think it was October of 1970, it came out. Label was Vanguard, so like Ghetto, If I Were a Carpenter, Silver Dagger.
Yeah, it's a
Love is just a
nice,
4-letter word, which is, of course, a Bob Dylan song as well.
yeah, it's a nice sampling of her. If you don't know who
23 songs. Yeah,
she is.
nice. Right?
Yeah, a double album.
Yeah. Well,
A
70
double.
minutes. Okay, so hang on. So Human R is asking, just to be clear, I'm not asking about the DBX stuff Steve talked
Oh,
about earlier, but Steely Dan and DBX used on the tapes. These are encoded records that don't play
yeah, I
properly
remember
without a decoder.
on Columbia, right? Yeah, I remember those. I had one with a decoder, but it was very unnerving when you don't hear any surface noise. I mean, I know it sounds weird, but it just didn't sound right. And they had a very short run, but I did listen to it and it sounded okay. But I never compared it to anything.
Yeah.
But it it worked.
And just to be clear, you were recommending Farewell Angelina, the Cisco
Yeah.
cut. Buy it.
Yeah, I mean, if you can find any version of the album, just make
You
sure it's
just jacked the
clean.
price up on Cisco now. It's probably just
Sorry.
nuts.
Seeing Farewell Angelina, the session tapes was like, this is going to be a good sounding record. And it is,
Yeah.
that opening song on there is it's a killer. A killer, I tell you.
I hear your dog now.
Yeah, we have a
Damn
lot of
dogs.
dogs and they're being very
Well, you
quiet.
told me, I'm not going to repeat how many you had because I thought you were joking, but I think
I'm not
you
joking.
aren't. You were not
No,
joking.
we had some dogs and then
Okay.
we rescued a pregnant Mama Yorkie, and she had 4 babies, and we have the mama and 2 of those babies. Our housekeeper has another one of the babies, and a friend of my wife's has another one of the babies. So that's a lot of
Hang
doggies.
on, you go from mastering engineering to a doggy kennel. Wow, it's quite the career shift.
Yeah, I know. Well, you get older, and Any Day Now. Yeah, that's a good album too. Any Day Now. Columbia was a system called CX. Yeah. That's what I was talking about. CX.
Okay,
Yeah, I
thank you.
never heard any of the DBXs. I don't think I did. There was a problem with the actual units. They weren't calibrated right, or they were not on spec, or they didn't stay calibrated or something. I don't know, but it was,
Yeah.
it was useless, I thought. Ding, 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 ding,
Any
ding,
more
ding.
you see want to answer?
EC?
Any more that you see that you would
Oh,
like to
all right.
answer? Sorry.
Okay. EC, I was thinking Eric Clapton. Any Day Now.
EC. Yeah. Have you had Van Morrison? Have you done any Van Morrison?
Moondance. I did Moondance.
I'm
Dave
gonna make you
McNair.
sing it right away. Hang on, what's this one? Any opinion on Dave McNair mastering, Steve? I might be using him for future record. Do you know? Okay.
Not a clue. Sorry.
That's fair.
Sorry.
Look at this. So Amos has several stereo mono DOGs of Angelina and a Cisco test pressing. All fabulous.
Yeah.
Test pressings, though, Steve. They're test pressings.
Yeah.
You have thoughts on test. You have thoughts on test pressings, thoughts on one steps, thoughts on half speed mastering, don't you?
I did. Not anymore.
No.
Now you have them.
They're all recorded for historical purposes.
I gave them all to you.
Yeah. Every
If
single
somebody
one.
sent me a one step of whatever they're selling now, I'd be happy to listen to it and enjoy it. It's just, I don't think it's necessary, But if it's done well and the vinyl is quiet, I don't think it's
Well,
going
the
to hurt
vinyl
it.
is the vinyl is the big thing now. It's this the what was the Neotech vinyl with a different compound. That's the big difference,
Yeah,
really.
yeah, 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 yeah.
Or are
You
you
know,
saying that's gimmicky now?
it's no, no, no.
Okay.
It's California. We have EPA here, and it's
Speak.
never going to be like the old days. It's never going to be like in the late '90s. I bought an RCA Victor Living Stereo vinyl LP from Tom Ported Better Records of Bolero. This was a 1959 pressing, never been played,
Yeah.
still sealed. It was the quietest record I ever played. There was nothing on,
Huh.
not even surface noise. Bolero starts out doom, doo, 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 doom, 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 and it's quiet for almost the whole side. You didn't hear anything.
Hmm.
It was just incredible because the vinyl was incredible. It was just, they don't
Well,
make records like that anymore because the vinyl is not like that anymore.
so I sent you
Nothing we can
my
do about it.
Analog Productions Asia UHQR, which is the Clarity vinyl. So another
Yeah, yeah.
secret
That
sauce
was okay.
compound. The vinyl itself, when you played it, you should have. I never. I don't know if I can't remember what you said. I mean, I'm assuming you thought that
No,
was
it was
pleasant.
okay. It was good. You have something like Asia, it's going to be loud enough. But, people have a Bolero, it's doom, doo, 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 doo. It's not
Yeah.
loud enough,
No, you're gonna make sure you don't
you
hear
know.
the
But in the old days, in order to get a record to remain above the noise level of the surface of the record, they did this thing that was called compression. And all it did was it reduced your dynamic range from 20 dB down to 10
Yeah.
dB. So you could keep it above the noise floor of the record. Now we don't do that anymore. None of the engineers have to do that anymore. They have a neat little trick. It's a high frequency limiter,
Mm.
and you can't hear it working. It's way the hell up there. But when it's on, it allows the cutter head to concentrate on the actual sound of the music without, the cutter head has no idea. What it wants to do is reproduce everything, whether it's music or not. And when you take care of this ultrasonic crap,
Yeah.
or you make the top end a little less dynamic, the rest of the record can really shine. So that's what they do now to keep the record in the groove. So records now are a lot more dynamic. So if you have a dynamic album and you don't have quiet vinyl, you're screwed.
Well,
So
Christopher is saying that some of the DCCs were
RTI
pressed
super
and
vinyl,
RTI was super vinyl.
they just made that up. What is super
Well,
vinyl?
super vinyl is that Neotech compound that's used with
Uh-huh.
mobile fidelity now, and with yeah.
Is it smuggled in from out of
Well, it's
from
just a
out of the
secret.
country?
It's a
Whatever
secret
it is.
secret compound.
More power to them. If they can, make a quiet record, they can make a
Well, then they
quiet
got this echo vinyl
record.
sounds like, or bio vinyl, echo vinyl, whatever you want to call it. I think as a mastering engineer, you could have an incredible, mastering of a record, but then it gets put onto echo or bio vinyl, and you're going to say, "Oh, this is the worst mastering I've ever heard." Well, it's not the mastering engineer's issue. Probably it's at this point it's the playback. It's the vinyl. It's
Well,
crap.
that's why God invented the SACD. I don't know why you guys aren't collecting those.
A lot cheaper.
Yeah, but that certain magic that happens when you play a record, that analog scraping,
Yeah.
that is truly adds that extra dimension, and it really does. I mean, I understand that, but is it that, or is it about everyone's a record collector and they have a collection and they want to add to their collection?
That's what it is.
I mean, there's nothing really exciting about having an SACD or a CD collection anymore, is there? But
It's
having a
not
vinyl
sexy.
collection is cool.
Yeah.
But you can't complain, especially on classical or wide dynamic range jazz. You just can't complain if your record is going to be a little noisier than
Yeah.
a record from back in the day, because that JVC vinyl composition is just it is no more. It's
Yeah.
just they can't do it anymore. So
I got a lot of Canadian original cuts, and it's like that old thin little 120 vinyl. I don't mind that either. Some of the better
no,
stuff
yeah,
sounds
you
all
know,
right.
people ask me all the time, What would you collect if you wanted to start collecting vinyl? And what I would suggest is find a record dealer, either in the United States or wherever you are, who you trust, who grades your records accurately.
Yeah.
Go for originals. Go for original pressings. They're historical. Most of them sound good. It's mostly what the producer wanted the record to sound like. Now, if you can find an audiophile version for $20, great. But, there are still $20 records out there, and an album like on Asia that sold over 1 million copies, you can find them out there. If you find a dealer that you trust, grading is everything. The record is graded properly and it's priced properly. That's what you should collect. I mean, I still get that old thrill when I see a Capitol LP on my turntable, or a Capitol single with an orange yellow swirl, or an original British Parlophone label with that, that original Parlophone. It's just, it transcends the sound, and it's more like an event, a time machine going back into the past.
Let's take one more. It's getting
Okay.
late. It's getting late for us even, but I saw Del Griffith here. I never did ask if you're a Sinatra fan. What's if you are? I mean, Sinatra albums. Would you want to remaster?
Well,
would you?
I remixed over 10 Sinatra albums. So, what?
Are you a fan of Sinatra? Is what I'm asking, though.
Yes, of course. You're asking me what my favorite Frank Sinatra album is, basically.
Well,
right?
he's asking you which one you think you'd remaster if you had the chance to remaster it currently.
Remastered or remix?
Remaster. Yeah. You could do both. Remix.
It wouldn't be anything on Reprise, because I would use my own remixes of those. So it would have to be on Capitol. So what would need it the most? Probably in the wee small hours, or you know what? Sinatra. Which is
the wee small hours, though, Steve? Isn't that like really more of a concept album? Like it's one of the first ones.
It is more of a concept album.
That's probably why it comes up as being so popular all these years later.
Every version out there has added echo.
That's a Capitol thing.
Which is the Sinatra? Is it?
Don't put me in the spot. I don't know Sinatra.
The one the one that has. Oh my God!
Don't do it. Don't do it. Don't do it.
When I'm on the spot, it's like
I hate it.
I can see the album in my mind. A Swing and Affair, right? Is that the one? The one after, his follow-up to his, big giant hit. Swing and Affair. Yeah, that's the one I would do. They issued it originally 14 tracks, and then in 1961 they just narrowed it down to 12 tracks, and they redubbed it, added echo and mid-range, and it sounds like crap. And then when Mobile Fidelity when they did their box, that's what they used, because they didn't know that the originals were not on master reels anymore. They were stored as singles. And so they had to recompile them. And I know that they have, in the past 10 years, recompile. So,
Matt Luthen's like songs for a swinging lovers.
Yeah. Yeah, songs for swinging lovers. The one after that, A Swinging Affair, that's the one that really got the most, screwed up. Also, I like the twofer of, God, I'm really terrible. He's
putting on the spot here, this hot seat, right? Matthew probably.
His first 10-inch and his second 10-inch, the one where he's under the street lamp. What the hell is that called? Oh, yeah, Songs for Young Lovers. And the other one, the one with a purple cover. I'd like to do that one too. Also, September of My Years. September of My Years, there's a real problem with that album. I mean, it's not a problem. It's just, it's at that time at United, they got a new Scully 4-track in. So half of the songs on that album are on the Scully 4-track, and the other half are on the Ampex 3-track, and they sound nothing like each other sonically. So when you listen to the album, when you listen to the album, it's changes, and it drives me crazy. It's, you know, they didn't care in those days, but yeah, I'd like to work on that one. September of My Years. No One Cares is a good one too, but Live with the Sands, that's already been done. Yeah, when I remix reprise Sinatra, how many tracks were on the
I was
multi-track
about to put that one
master?
up.
Oh, thank you. Well,
Oh, let me read it again. So when you remix reprise Sinatra, how many tracks were on the multi-track masters? 3 or 4, or were there later ones 8-track?
the early ones, I remember Tommy and those are all 3-track United. They went 4-track only in 1967 for the Jobim album. Jobim's on his own track, and Sinatra's on his own track, and the orchestra is left, right. Same for Then I Go and Spoil It All by Saying Something Stupid Like I Love You.
Love
The Duke
you.
Ellington is
Yeah.
4-track, rhythm, sax, horns, Frank. By the time they got to doing That's Life, it was 8-track. But like Columbia before them, they took the 8-track and they didn't mix to 3-track. And then from the 3-track, they created the mono and the stereo, which to me is pointless. That's what they did on all the early albums were the Byrds. First you have an 8-track, then you mix that down to left, center, and right, then you mix that down to mono or stereo. It's like, come on, you can mix from an 8-track, guys. You're union engineers back then. You know what you were doing. I don't know why they did that. It's annoying to me.
Probably
Anyway,
coffee breaks, right? I mean, not as many.
yeah. So 3 tracks, 4 tracks, and 8-track. And yeah.
Well, here's one. Early
Yeah.
Beach Boys, still your favorite. Early 80s Beach Boys, still your
Early
favorite with the
80s
green
Beach Boys.
capital hype.
Oh, he means the vinyl, not the
Yeah.
songs, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, no, exactly.
Yes,
Like the
yes.
green capital.
Find that Wild Honey on that green. It says on the back a monophonic reissue up in the right hand corner, and it'll say mastered by Capitol, or it'll say Wally mastered by whatever it is. That was a album that they did not remove any songs from, and it's all its wacky glory. Some songs are all weird sounding, and it's a very charming album. It's one of my favorite Beach Boys albums. Also, the other ones are really good too, you know, but they chopped off some of the songs on there. So curse you just to save a couple cents in publishing. I mean, why would you do that, you know? Just to save a couple cents. It's just never made sense to me, and it always irritated me. So I hear that the analog productions ones are good. Are they good? You know,
Kevin Gray.
Shutdown Volume 2 and all those, are they the ones that you know, Kevin Gray remastered? Are those good?
Kevin's
I don't
really
know. I
proud.
never heard him.
Kevin Gray. I've talked to Kevin about that. He's really proud of those ones.
Yeah, you know, those are all great albums. That Shutdown Volume 2 album, you should get that in mono. Far superior mono mix, and it has a great, you know, the actual single version of Don't Worry Baby on there, and it has In the Parking Lot, a great song that they chopped off the green label reissue. So I can't recommend that. But you know, why would they chop that off of there? It's like,
why?
So irritating.
Bad choices. Exactly.
Very bad. You know, it was done by someone who didn't know the music, just like Endless Summer was mastered and annotated by someone who didn't know the music. And they put, you know, some of the wrong versions of the songs on there, and irritated me then. So when we did our gold CD and LP, we put the right versions of all the songs on there. And some people got mad. I'm used to hearing it with the wrong songs on there. I want to hear it with the wrong songs on there. How dare you? And I'm like, get over it. Get over it, dudes.
Here's a question. Matthew Bella, Serio Sonic. Do you have any insight as to the inconsistencies of the mixes of the Otis Redding Dictionary of Soul?
Well, some of those songs were recorded twice, weren't they? The mono versions are not the same performance as the stereo versions. Is that right? I mean, they were very crude. Sometimes twin track, left, right. Sometimes Otis in the center, sometimes on the right channel. I would just always go for Otis in mono.
Yeah.
Just Otis and mono. I
Consistent.
mean, and love Otis.
Endless Summer, was that mastered by Wally?
Yeah, Wally didn't give two shits about Endless Summer. I could tell you what he was given to work with sounded great. He's a great mastering engineer, but
Of
whoever
course.
compiled that, in order to compile something like Endless Summer, you have to make tape copies of every song and compile it on a hits reel. Side A, side B, side C, side D. Whoever pulled the tape, whoever copied the tape did not know the Beach Boys. They didn't know that Be True to Your School, the hit, was on a single. They didn't know that Help Me Rhonda, the hit, was on a single. It was on there twice. And they copied Help Me Rhonda, the wrong version, and they Be True to Your School, the wrong version, and they put them on there. Nobody fixed it for the entire history of.
So don't buy Endless Summer. You don't want historical accuracy of the Beach Boys.
Well, yeah. I mean, if you like all the right songs, buy the DCC versions. They are the right songs.
There
and
you go.
The Razor and Tie. That rare Razor and Tie mail order CD. If you can find that one, that has all the right songs on there too.
Well, let's cut it at that.
Okay.
Call it a wrap. What'd you think? Good questions?
Yeah. I mean, I never know how I'm coming off. So
well, I don't. You always tell me, you're like, Steve, don't tell me anything. Don't tell me what you're going to ask about. The only thing, I'm like, okay, so we did it.
I mean, I'm a music lover, and the older I get, the more I find that I'm satisfied with whatever I can play at the time. I have a great sound system in our car, and sometimes it sounds so damn good in there. I just want to hang out in there. So, it's not all. Yeah.
We learned that Prince liked to listen to his some of his stuff in his Jeep Cherokee. We learned that with Grover Beery was with Prince years back, and they listened to Prince music in Prince's Jeep Cherokee. He liked the sound of it. Weird.
How was old Grove?
It's good. Well, he's doing Because Sound Matters, right? He's doing the one steps. Like I showed you this.
Is he? Because he was.
This is Grover. This is Grover Beery's Because Sound Matters one steps. This is the Green Day.
God, I feel so out of touch.
American Idiot, and he's got Dookie. He's got all the 3 Linkin Parks. He's coming up with Katie Lang's Ingenue, cut from the master by Chris Bellman.
On what label?
Because Sound Matters.
Who owns that?
Warner.
I thought they ended that. I guess they brought it back.
It's been reincarnated.
Okay,
like
that's good. I wonder what their units are on that. How many of those are
3,000 or so? I think it is. Yeah.
But those are those all one steps?
Yes.
Why the heck would he do that? Oh well. And how much are they going for?
The American 125, 130.
That's why they're doing it. Okay, I see.
Go.
Money.
All right. Well, we'll do this again.
Okay. Thanks,
everyone.
Everybody.
Thank you, everyone. This was awesome. And repeat it if you want. Where can we can listen to it on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and then just do the a lot of people don't have to watch it live. We get a lot of people that watch it after, so we get lots of want to listen and take 2 hours 15 minutes. That's our longest show ever. We did it. Yeah.
I'm just raring to go for another hour.
That's a long. I gotta get kids to bed at this point. That's the problem.
Yeah.
We'll do it again. That's why we do this. But I appreciate everything, and we'll talk very soon.
Thanks, Stephen.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks, Steve.